Hey, yo, what is up everyone? Kilryan here, bringing you another video, and this time it's going to be a beginner's guide to PvE for the Kung Fu Master. A lot of y'all have seen me playing Kung Fu Master on Taiwan on the closed beta of NA, and for the most part, I got gold on it in PvP, as well as done pretty much all the PvE content that there has been available during the closed beta. And so I wanted to just kind of give a little bit of insight on the specs as well as the skills of a Kung Fu Master for PvE. Down the line, I will be making a PvP guide as well. However, that'll probably be next closed beta weekend. So this is going to be for PvE and PvE players. Let me start off with the specs. What a spec is this is going to be how you refine your character, how you refine your playstyle into basically being the best you can be, or dealing the most optimal DPS, or whatever it may be. So at max level, you have 31 points that are going to be available until Hung Moon levels are introduced, where then we'll get 10 more. However, this will be your starting level 45 number of points. As a KFM, you are mainly a single target DPS class. You don't really have much AoE outside of a couple skills, which we'll go into later. So your priority should be to be high damage on a single target, as well as possibly increasing your threat and being a little bit more tanky for your group. So the first thing that you want to go into is your straight jab. This is your basic auto attack skill, which you want to go 3 points into. The reason why is because this gives you a stacking crit chance buff, as well as a additional focus every time you crit. This is going to be your primary method in a combo, which I'll talk about later, which is going to basically be your main source of damage. And this is going to be your focus recovery as well. Next up, we're going to go down to your F skill. There are two F skills that you want to put points into. First priority is Cyclone Kick. This is your highest single target damage skill outside of pressure points. This you will be using a part of your main damage rotation as well. You'll go down the middle tree here because it makes it a no cooldown, as well as, sorry for the dog barking in the background guys, as well as reducing the focus cost so you can use it a lot more often. Next up, you want to go 2 points into your Smite. This is something that I've personally come up with in terms of specs. I didn't really see it much in other people's specs, and I think that this is a really good addition because it makes it to where your F skill can be utilized after a Cyclone Kick, as well as it makes it to where you're getting 3 focus recovery on using it, and it does not knock up the enemy bosses. This is really, really nice because if you knock up a boss in this game, your group is actually losing a lot of DPS. Alright, next up, we're going to move on down to counter. There are 2 ways that you can go into counter. You can either go in the far left tree or the far right tree, in my opinion. The left tree gives you a little bit more survivability in a sense that it gives you some healing. You absorb, if you go all the way down, 50% of damage is HP, as well as getting a 2% health buff or a 2% healing over 5 seconds. This, in a game with no healers, this can actually be the difference between life and death. And also, on the far right side, this is going to be your threat increase. So if you are planning to be a tank for your group, this is the route that you would want to go. Next up, once again a part of your main damage rotation, your number 2 skill, Swift Strike. You're probably very familiar with this since you probably spammed it while leveling. And what you want to do here is go 3 points in. There is an option to add 1 more 4th point to increase threat, but in my opinion, you don't even really need this as long as you're DPSing and countering appropriately. So I don't think you need the increased threat cost here. What this does is it makes it to where it will cost no focus. It'll cost no focus if you crit. So you're kind of seeing a trend in this with single target. You want high focus regeneration while also reducing focus costs so you can be using a ton of skills. All right. Next up is going to be your leg sweep / shin kick. These, whenever you put points into this, it will apply to both shin kick and leg sweep, and you want to go down this right tree. This is going to be your one of your highest damaging skills in combination with the combo that I'll talk about later. Whenever a enemy is gripped up in the air, whether it be through a destroyer or a Blade Dancer in your group. Okay. Common Strike is fairly pointless in my opinion for PvE. Rising Dragon as well. This isn't really necessary. Searing Palm. This skill you will spec in the left tree. This is going to be your highest single target damage skill, which can only be activated in coordinates with your shin kick. So, as well as Palm Strike and a couple other little things. You'll see all the prerequisites down here. Mainly, I find using this after shin kicks or using my Q and E to dodge skills. But if you look here, while you're gaining all these stacks, you're getting increased critical strike chance by a massive amount. So you usually want to space this out, kind of like 5 seconds in between optimally if you can manage to pull that off. Otherwise, you want to use X when they're gripped up in the air. Shin kick X, shin kick X, shin kick X, shin kick X. This will give you the highest amount of damage in a very, very short amount of time, as well as giving you an insane crit buff for 10 seconds. So this is kind of like your DPS cooldown. Next up, you want to spec into Flurry. You're going to want to go in this middle tree here, because what this will allow you to do is on your Flurry skill, it will make it to where bosses and damage skills and stuns and things like that are not applied to you. This is an iframe, a channeling iframe, which is extremely strong in dodging and avoiding skills of bosses and things like that. If you might not be able to block in time, or your Q and your E are down. Next up, I really like to spec my trimmer down this middle tree here. The reason why is because normally it's just a stun. However, if you spec in the middle tree, what it actually does is it groups up all the mobs in the area right on top of you, or right on top of the trimmer. It applies a fire debuff under them, as well as causing all critical damage to be 20% more on enemies that are in that fire pit. So this is a huge damage spike for both your group, as well as making things a lot easier to like speed clear dungeons and things like that. Next up is going to be your dash skill. So your dash is your Q and E. What this is this is going to be your primary source of how you're going to be avoiding most damage. And the reason why we spec 3 points into it is because it gives it to where you actually are immune to damage for a 2-second timer from each of these skills, from both your Q and your E. So this is going to be your primary source of actually avoiding damage from bosses, outside of possibly countering on occasion. Any red cone oriented skills that you see a boss do, that means that cannot be blocked. It cannot be blocked, guys. You cannot counter it, so you have to avoid it with a Q and E or just moving out of it. This is things like a lot of jumps and things along those lines. Okay, I was like, why do I have 2 training points? It's because I didn't spec the counter. I typically like to go on the right side for threat, because as a KFM, you are one of the tankier classes. You are one of the tankier classes in the game. And so a lot of people kind of expect you to actually go about being the tank for the group. So this is how I go about speccing my character. You can hop back through the video and see, if you might have missed a single thing. Alright, so now into the basics of PvE in terms of, let's hop on over, let's go over here. So, hop into the basics of a Kung Fu Master in terms of PvE. Once again, we are a high single target damage class where most of our focus should be oriented around avoiding damage by using your Q and E or maintaining aggro from the boss and just blocking and countering from the front while constantly using the combo that I'm about to show you. This is your staple combo. It is called 3RF. What this refers to, or 3 left click F is what I prefer to say. What this refers to is the act of using your Swift Strike, okay, Swift Strike into Straight Jab, which is going to be a part of animation canceling, which is something that you really want to make sure that you master as a Kung Fu master. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between using these two things. What happens is upon critting with your number 2 skill, guys, you will activate your Cyclone Kick. Your Cyclone Kick. Once again, this is a part of your highest single target damage skills. Let me kind of showcase what I mean whenever I'm showing this. And throughout this, I will also commentate how or what skills I'm going to be using in the process as well to maybe avoid some skills or avoid damage from the bosses. So typically I'll engage, drop this, put up a counter because it was a yellow, and then here comes the animation canceling. Block in between, boom. He's going to be doing a spin here, so I use my Q and E to dodge onto that. I can use my E once again to dodge around. Right there is a red circle, so I use my C, which gives me the iframe, once again we talked about. 2 left click, 2 left click, 2 left click, 2 left click F. Sorry if you are hearing a lot of spamming. You can also utilize SS to get out of AoE mobs like that. Anytime that you get a crit with your 2, ideally you want to activate your F for a higher burst damage. I just was wondering why my damage was actually very low in this video, because I actually don't have a weapon equipped. I have a broken weapon. So we're kind of avoiding that right now. But you see how much focus regeneration I am getting through this? And also, when you actually dodge a skill with your Q and E, you will gain a ton of focus. Boom. Y'all got an idea of what animation canceling was like, what the dodging of the Kung Fu Master was like, utilizing Flurry as well as your Q and E. And then I also could have probably dropped another trimmer during that fight to apply more damage for my group. Those are the basics of how you want to kill something, how you want to play PvE as a Kung Fu Master, being a very high single target damage class. Another thing to note is through your Bope, or sorry, your Soul Shield, the main thing that you want to consider getting in terms of a substat is Critical Strike. Due to Cyclone Kick only proccing off of a crit through your Swift Strike, or after Shin Kick, which I wasn't able to showcase Shin Kick there, you need Critical Strike to be dealing optimal damage. So in regards to that, you want to get a critical Bope piece, such as the Dokumu Critical Soul Shield from the Spider's Den, or you can actually have a, what are they called? The Soul Wardens craft you a Moonwater Critical Soul Shield Primer. This is the best thing that you can get, and I highly recommend looking into getting one of these for all of the items here. If you actually notice under my Critical Strike, with 1532 increased Critical Strike, I have a 38% increased chance to crit. On top of your stacking Straight Jab critical and the buff that you actually get from your weapon, from your profane weapon, this is going to give you an extremely high crit chance. Alright guys, this is running a little bit longer than expected. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you found it informational. If you have any questions, post them in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to respond, or check out my stream at twitch.tv/Kilryan, or tweet at me at Twitter, twitter.com/Kilryan as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch y'all next time.